Greetings and welcome back to Ask the Gardener, sponsored by Gardening Adventures. This is our July gardening tips, strategies, and resources. Today, I just want to share with you some quick tips on sowing and planting outdoors, as well as sowing and planting indoors. And I'm going to share specifically about some regions or zones, as we call them. And most zones can plant almost anything right now in the from vegetables or veggies, fruits, to perennials and annuals. So if you live in an area of high heat, avoid planting trees and large shrubberies during this time. However, the soaring temperatures will stress them so much that while they're getting established. So those are the two things that we want to avoid during high intense heat. It's the trees and shrubberies, okay? But just about everything else can be planted now. Fruits, vegetables, your perennials, your annuals. You can have a great time during the month of July. So I almost call it like we have what we call succession planting. You did some planting in the early spring or in the winter, early spring, mid-spring, and now we're in summer. You can do now a second set of planting cucumbers and tomatoes and squash and beans, and start preparing for your fall garden as well. But I want to just share with you sowing and planting outdoors first. And we're going to talk about zone 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 for sowing and planting outdoors. Zone 4, you can set out transplants of broccoli now, cauliflower, cabbage, as well as a second crop of green beans, summer squash, seeds of kale, and Asian green can be sown for the fall harvest. That's zone 4 I'm talking about now. Now zone 5 and 6, if you're in zone 5 and 6, that's why it's important to know your zone. You can plant cilantro, bush beans, summer squash, as well as carrots, kale, beets, and chard for your fall harvest. That's zone 4, no, that's zone 5 and 6. And then for zoners or gardeners, that's in zone 7 and 8. 7 and 8. I'm in zone 8B. I'm in central Alabama, and I fall under zone 8B. But this is for zone 7 and 8. So if you're in zone 7 and 8, listen up. You can start more tomatoes, peppers, eggplants for late summer harvest. That's right. So I'm in the midst of planting some more tomato and cucumber and pepper seeds, okay? You can do beans and squash and turnips and beets and carrots and lettuce for the fall. I'm talking about seeds, not seedlings. And so you can start prepping now in the month of July for your fall harvest with your seeds, whether you're doing them in containers or raised beds or in the ground. And that way you will have a jump start on your fall harvest as well as a late summer harvest. Okay, so those are the tips for those zones for sowing and planting outdoors. This is all outdoors. Now, for you gardeners that want to sow and plant indoors in the month of July, while most of our garden activities now really kind of focus on outdoors, there's still some indoor garden chores to do, particularly if you're planning ahead for your fall garden. So I'm talking to gardeners in zone 4, 5, and 6. Know your zone, 4, 5, and 6. You may pre-sprout peas, such as snow peas, sugar snaps. You can start seeds for broccoli, carrots, spinach, kale, lettuce, and beets. That's zone 4, 5, and 6. And then zone 7. Zone 7, you can start seeds for cabbage. This is indoors. I'm talking indoors now for zone 7. And then zones 9 and 10. We didn't leave you out. Zones 9 and 10. That's like Arizona, California. Right now, those zones are experiencing intense heat. And so this is strictly for indoor sowing and planting. You can start seeds for peppers, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and tomatoes for your fall season. Okay? So that's just some tips for sowing and planting outdoors and indoors. And so a couple tips for some other zones as far as harvest. You can harvest by zones as well. This is not an exact science. These are tips, strategies, suggestions, and recommendations, okay, from Ask the Gardener. When we look at zones 4 and 5, you can continue to harvest lettuce, spinach, beets, and carrots when they are ready. And so I'm in zone 8B, and I'm still waiting for some of my beets to come. My lettuce is we're harvesting the spinach already. When we look at zone 6 and 7, you should be able to harvest right now lettuce, onions, cabbage, tomatoes at the end of the month, at the end of July. Well, I'm in zone 8B. I had to reference my zone. I'm already harvesting lettuce, onions, cabbage, and tomatoes already. And I'm making great salads. I love that. My cucumbers, the lettuce, the beets, all of those things that I have sown from seeds at the end of March, I have started harvesting in the month of June and looking forward to even a greater harvest in the month of July. Zones 8, 9, and 10. You should be harvesting some squash by now, cucumbers, melons. I'm excited. I planted some sugar baby watermelon, and I think I have one that's ready for harvest now, and I'm looking forward to partaking in that. And then I have several other crimson watermelon vines that are growing in 2 spots in the garden, and we have a couple more baby watermelons that we're going, seedlings that we're going to put in the ground, as well as a couple more baby watermelons that we see are growing. So stay tuned. Maybe I'll do just a 1-minute video on the sugar baby watermelon when we harvest it. But you should be able to do the squash, the cucumbers, the watermelons, all different melons, whatever you have planted, and tomatoes by the end of the month. So I'm really excited about our harvest that's coming forth. I hope that these tips, strategies, and resources will be a great benefit for you during the month of July. Remember, our tagline is, "An educated gardener is a successful gardener." Have a great day. Happy gardening. This is Ask the Gardener, Dr. Manetta.